people with disabilities as equals. Yeah, that's kind of what he's saying, and it also played into the same sort of image as the posters, that people with disabilities are just to be pitied, right? That they're helpless. Give money, right? Throw money at us so that we can take care of these people with disabilities, and that really undercuts the message of the disability rights movement, as we'll see. So those are some of the criticisms. Here's another one that comes out in a more recent controversy between Autism Speaks, which you may have heard of, and is another parent-initiated organization, and the neurodiversity movement, which is dominated by people with autism, by autism people. So I just pulled this off the Autism Speaks website. This is part of their mission statement. And you can see what they're going to do over the next 10 years. They're going to try to find the causes. They're going to try to help kids be diagnosed before the age of 2, making sure children have access to appropriate intervention services and resources, better treatments for the underlying pathology. Notice here the very medicalized language, right? And what are they basically trying to do? Cure it, right? They're trying to get rid of it. And if you contrast that with the neurodiversity movement, this is a blogger who goes by the name Cokeman38. This was published on the Daily Kos, in which he's arguing for why he objects to the disability, to the Autism Speaks. And you can see here he draws an analogy. Now imagine that the governing body of this organization only included members of the male gender. If you imagine Womanhood Speaks is the organization, sorry I should have read that. With not one female represented in its ranks. Imagine that its actual aim was to create a registry of all females and force them to become more masculine, completely disregarding the fact that a majority of females were perfectly content with their womanhood and even found it to be advantageous. Imagine that members of its leadership appeared on popular TV programs talking about the epidemic of womanhood and how it needed to be eradicated. Doesn't sound too appealing, does it? So you can see here some of the tension between a parent-run organization like Autism Speaks and what happens when people with disabilities speak for themselves.
What's the neurodiversity movement?
So the neurodiversity movement, I was going to talk about it a little later, but that's okay. The neurodiversity movement is dominated by people with autism, but it includes other people as well. And they basically argue that autism is not a disability, or it's not something bad, but it's just a different way of being. It's just a diversity, a different way of having your head arranged, I guess. And so they object to Autism Speaks, that emphasis on getting rid of it, right, rather than accepting autism as just a neurodiverse way of being. Now there are critics of the neurodiversity movement. Some critics have argued, for example, that the neurodiversity movement might be useful, but it's particularly useful for people on the autism spectrum who are not all that disabled. For people who are severely disabled with autism and may engage in self-injurious behaviors and other kinds of things, it's not as easy just to say, let's accept. So this is a controversy, it's an ongoing controversy, but just to bring to your attention some of the controversies between parent-run or parent-initiated organizations and groups that are initiated by people with disabilities themselves. So back to the history a little bit. In the United States, the history of the disability movement really gets started in the 1960s, In part, it was inspired by the civil rights movement for race and by the feminism movement. One of the earliest places where the disability rights movement gets started is in Berkeley, California, where Ed Roberts, who had polio, here you see him in his iron lung, as a young man, fought to go to Berkeley because at first they wouldn't accept him, and then they made him live in the hospital at Berkeley, and so he had to fight to get out of the hospital to be put in a regular residence. And then later, with a group that they called the Rolling Quads, they started the independent living movement in Berkeley, California, where they helped, and they've helped hundreds of thousands of people live independently in Berkeley. I have a bit of video. I don't know how much. Do I have the time to play it? Let's hope it works. Oh no. Oh, click, right? Yeah.
It looks better.
I did. Oh, I did left click.
Do you mind if I?
Oh, please.
Sure.
I'm not a PC person. So. It was designed on a Mac. I do have my Mac.
I'm just going to pull it up on YouTube. Ed Roberts.
Yeah.
It might not.
Would you want me to plug in? Because I can just plug in on my Mac using that.
We don't have the
I have the.
Oh, you have it. Ah, well, great.
I'm self-sufficient. I've learned my lesson. When you forget, I teach at Lehman College.
Or you need to have your own.
You need to have your own everything. Because that's the way, that's the cute way, isn't it, John?
Okay, well. The map is easy words continue.
Want to turn that off a little bit?